Hey, welcome back to the series. In this episode, we will be looking at making a universe view as well as a consciousness core production visual progress bar. This will be rather simple, actually, there's no complexity in this episode, but I decided to make something a little different. Instead of filming and commenting and coding at the same time, I decided to just film the code and to comment later on a different recording. So here I will be commenting the code while it is being coded in front of us. I also made the decision not to add any sort of music or ambient side in the background, which means that when I will not be commenting, basically the video will be silent somehow. So I decided not to because, well, this will actually allow you to choose your own background sound, music, whatever you're using, right? So that, yeah, my own isn't bothering you. That's the point, right? So I leave you to the episode and have fun. Right, so before anything else, the first goal of this video is to make a universe view. So it's actually pretty standard. In order to create a new view, the first thing to do is to create a new link. So you may have noticed I have hidden the prototypes link because they are quite outdated now. So anyway, we create a new button link as usual. We give it a placeholder saying, well, universe, that will be the name at the moment. So I renamed this button as usual with the universe link typo. And then the next step is to create a signal, right? So as usual, we use the editor to manually, or well, not to manually, create a connection between the signal and the user interface script. Here we will just copy the navigation request, and also we will need to create a new entry in the enum, right? Have a views.universe entry. Now that we have a new view being set up, I actually decided to change the way we choose the first displayed view. So instead of having an initial visibility for each view, I decided to just emit a navigation signal on ready when the user interface, well, is ready. This way it will allow us not to have to change all the views when we just want to change which view is in front when we launch. The next step is to create the actual universe view. So here we are creating the scene, a usual control node which we will name UniverseView. I save it so it is done already, and I can automatically create a script later on by using the add script button. As we did with every view so far, we will just extend the abstract class view, give it a regular view universe name and a short description. We don't need to add anything except for the super instruction in the ready overriding method. From that point, now we will just create the objects and the nodes in the scene. So I started by creating the VBox container as well as margin afterwards to put the VBox container in. I decided to set the pixels of the margin to 64 on each side. So make sure you don't forget to preset the anchors to full rect for both items. Then I created a label which will be the header. So I changed the theme of the label to header large and gave it the placeholder universe. From there, I did rename the node and I added a margin as well as the usual separator, right? 16 pixels, both left and right, and a separator. I then decided to change the spacing of the VBox container to 16 pixels. At this point, I wanted to create a sort of indentation to show the next information. So I created a margin container, which I expanded with a 64 pixels on the left, right? So here you can see me dabbling with 32 pixels, but nah, 64 on the left was better than 32 both sides. With this new VBox container, I decided to initialize the spacing to 16 pixel as usual, and I created a label within it, which would be a medium header, right? This time medium because, well, we already have a large header, and that would be the title to our active effects paragraph section. Anyway, I decided then to copy the separator, right? Duplicating it, because doesn't matter. It's always a margin 16, 16 and a separator, so let's just duplicate. In this new section, I decided to add a rich text label with BB code enabled because I do plan to use the bold function to basically have the title bold, just like we did in upgrade descriptions. So now I'm creating a script for managing the content of this active effects section. So I create a script CompoActiveEffects because it's going to be a component sort of. All I'm going to need is to get a variable from the editor that is going to be the Stardust per second rich text label. From this point, I was actually now focusing on a different feature, which was having a different display at the moment you start the game. So in order to make this, I created a label at the same level as the margin container, which I renamed main margin, even though it's main content, I guess, but I still wanted to keep the idea of it being a margin. So I picked the label, changed it to a header large, and had some text to notify the player that nothing can happen in this window, this view, as long as they do not spend consciousness core. So now that I have renamed both my variables in my nodes, I can create two variables in my ViewUniverse script, right? Which are going to be intro text and main margin, which is going to be here main content. The logic contained in the script isn't too complicated because there's only two states that the view can have, really, which is locked when the player creates a new game and unlocked when the player has purchased the first CC upgrade. So the main function we will need is initializeView, which will check what is the current state of, well, the CC upgrade, and then it will choose which object should be visible and which object should not be visible. This method will also be responsible for connecting the signal that will allow us to watch for the CC upgrade being purchased with, well, the help of another method, which is going to be on CCU01 level up, right? So that's pretty much it for this entire script. At this point, I realized that I forgot to add the universe view to the user interface scene, right? So I did add it, and then, as usual, the scroll selector for the view didn't load universe, so I had to reload Godot entirely. Also, don't forget to change the value for ConsciousnessCoreView, right? Because it is changed. Another thing which is missing is that in the UniverseView, the ready function doesn't take the super instruction, which must be added. We are now back in the CompoActiveEffects class. In there, we just want to make a very simple update function that will update the text of the rich label based on the generator power that comes from the HandlerStardustGenerator. As well, we will then go in the script to create a new signal, which will help us to know when to update. Well, back into the editor, I choose to add a placeholder for the status per second active effects because it appears empty when we look at the scene editing view, right? So just adding a placeholder here. So here, what I'm doing is creating a control node with a minimum height of 80 pixels to create spacing between my two categories, which are active effects and Stardust progress bar. So yeah, you just create a basic control node, give it some height, and have it be in between the objects you want to separate. What comes next is just adding a header and a separator to prepare the progress bar. Here we begin by adding a margin which will encapsulate the progress bar. So the values are 64 on the left and on the right. Once the margin is created, we just have to add to it a ProgressBar child node. I want to hide the percentage, which will minimize the height of the ProgressBar. So from this action, you actually then need to go into the layout to give it a minimum height. To our new progress bar, we added a script with very basic methods. We also make a link to the milestone object from the handler concession score. So we just use the onReady tag as usual to make that link. So now that we have the basic functions named, we actually need to create a signal within the milestone node that will tell us that the milestone has progressed. So this progression has to be notified every time basically either progress or goal value is changed. So this happens in the onStardustCreated method as well as in the initialize new milestone method, right? So here you will see me put it in check for completion first, but I will move it just in a few seconds. Also, you will notice I created a second signal, which is milestone created, which is for the initialize milestone method. That's for future, I don't know, just in case. The first step of populating the method of the ProgressBar script is to simply connect the signals. I connect both signals to onMilestoneChange method, which will later on direct us to the update method. Updating the progress bar isn't as complex as it looks like. All we have to do is to change the max value to have it set to the goal and to have the value set to the progress. Then everything else will be calculated automatically. At this point, I decided to add a label to the progress bar so we can display the current progression, right, with numbers. So it's just a matter of adding a label, child to the progress bar, have it centered, and then just with the script, change the value of the label based on the progress and the goal. At this point, I decided to save the progress bar as a component just to be able to duplicate it in the ConsciousnessCoreView to add it at the end of the main VBox container of our ConsciousnessCoreView. So we do have the progress bar showing there as well. And that's it. We're finally done with the implementation of a progress bar showing the progress toward creating new consciousness cores. We are finally done with today's episode. So the editing was an absolute nightmare. It was just awful to make. I don't know how this will look like, if this makes it easier for you or not. I think I did cut a lot of unnecessary moments when I'm editing and thinking about what I'm going to do next, filling up those various moments where I'm just typing lengthy, not necessary, but well, documentation and stuff can take some time, right? So, yeah, I don't know what I do about it, and what I will do for the next episodes. So anyway, I hope you like the content and that you enjoyed making this progress bar, and I will see you in the next episode.